The stars above Earth shone cold and quiet, but Commander Alex Voss felt a storm coming. From the bridge of the orbital station Sentinel-1, he stared at the black void. Everything looked normal, too normal. That was what bothered him. Alex had spent the last 15 years in Earth's defense fleet. He had seen pirate ambushes, smuggler raids, and political standoffs. But this was something different. A feeling, a tension in the air like a stretched wire ready to snap. He turned to the navigation officer. "Any movement near the neutral zone?" he asked. Lieutenant Marin shook her head. "Still nothing, sir, but we picked up an odd energy signature near Luna's dark side. Just a blip. It vanished after 3 seconds." Alex narrowed his eyes. "Mark it. We'll check it out on the next sweep." He stood quietly, hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was simple, dark blue with a silver insignia on the collar. Not flashy, but earned. A quiet reflection of the man himself, disciplined, focused, and always alert. Just as he was about to leave the bridge, a sharp beep broke the silence. "Commander," said the Commons officer, "we've received a priority message, encrypted, level Omega." Alex stiffened. Omega encryption was only used in extreme emergencies. He walked to the console, pressed his thumb against the scanner, and entered his personal code. The message decrypted with a soft click. "They know. Prepare for immediate response. Code Black Protocol." Alex's heart sank. They know. Those 2 words carried more weight than any full report. For over 100 years, Earth had hidden its most powerful project, the Aegis, a secret supercarrier, unlike anything in the galaxy, buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, built in silence, guarded in shadows. Only a handful of people on Earth knew of its existence. And now, someone else did too. He moved quickly. "Signal Earth Command. Tell them we're activating Code Black." "Yes, sir," replied the officer, urgency rising in his voice. Alex turned to the rest of the crew. "All hands to high alert. This is not a drill." Within minutes, the station's halls were alive with motion. Lights flashed red. Officers rushed to command posts. Fighters launched to scan nearby sectors. Even in the calm of space, the tension was heavy. As the station braced for the unknown, Alex walked into his private quarters. He needed a moment, alone. He stared out the small observation window. The Earth below looked peaceful, its blue and green surface glowing in the sunlight. But peace was always a fragile thing. His mind raced. How had the secret gotten out? Who had leaked it? And more importantly, who else knew? There was a knock at the door. "Enter," he said. It was Admiral Rain, Earth Defense's top military leader, appearing on a secure holo channel. "Alex," she said, "you've read the message." "Yes, ma'am." "Who sent it?" "Eyes from Europa, our listening post. They intercepted Drek's Dominion chatter. Varzenth knows about the Aegis." Alex clenched his jaw. The Dreks were not a race known for mercy. They were powerful, prideful, and expanding fast across the outer systems. If they learned about Earth's secret weapon, they wouldn't wait. They'd act. Rain continued. "You've been trained for this moment. The Council is debating now. But I'll be honest, your recommendation will carry weight." Alex nodded slowly. "Then here's my advice. Bring the Aegis up. Show them we're not weak. If the Dreks want to test us, let them see what we've built." Rain gave a rare, slight smile. "I thought you'd say that. Stand by for final orders." "Earth is waking up, Commander. Let's make sure we rise strong." The channel cut off. Alex walked back to the bridge. His voice rang out clear. "Prep the crew. The age of hiding is over." Outside the station, the stars continued to shine. But now something had changed. Earth was about to make its presence known. Far below the calm surface of the Pacific Ocean, silence ruled. at the bottom of the world's deepest trench, hidden by technology that bent light and scrambled sensors, Earth's greatest secret waited in the dark. The Aegis. It was not just a ship, it was a fortress. A symbol, a message built in steel and energy. For over 50 years, teams from every continent had worked together in secret to build her, a supercarrier, larger than any vessel in known space. Quietly constructed in the shadow of false satellites, sealed away by stealth fields, and powered by the most advanced core Earth had ever created, Project Horizon. Now, after all this time, the Aegis was ready. Commander Alex Voss stood inside the heart of the control center, located in a secure facility built into the ocean floor. Before him was a massive transparent screen, showing the full body of the Aegis. It rested inside a launch cradle, lights running down its hull like veins of blue fire. Engineers and officers stood at attention. Most had never seen Voss in person. They had worked under strict security, not knowing what their work was truly for. Until today, Voss's voice was steady and calm. This ship was built in silence. It was built with care, with sacrifice, and with the belief that one day we would need to rise. He paused, scanning the faces in the room. That day is now. A hum filled the room. The ship's main reactor, the Horizon core, was activating. Its power levels climbed steadily. Lights flickered, then held strong. "All systems are green, Commander," said Chief Engineer Tanaka. "The Aegis is alive." "Begin final launch sequence," Voss ordered. Above them, deep beneath the ocean, massive clamps unlocked with a boom that shook the seabed. Seawater rushed back as enormous gates opened slowly, allowing the launch channel to flood. Inside the Aegis, the bridge lit up as crew members took their stations. Captain Lyra Quinn, Voss's longtime partner in command, stood by the main console. Her hands moved quickly across the controls, activating engines, shields and weapon systems. "Flight control ready," she confirmed. "Outer shell integrity holding. We're good to go." Back in the control center, Voss watched as the ocean rumbled. Up on the surface, civilian drones were diverted. Weather patterns were temporarily altered by artificial satellites to keep prying eyes away. Even now, Earth's leaders argued in the Galactic Council chamber, but they were too late. The decision was made. The launch began. With a sound like thunder breaking underwater, the Aegis rose. First slowly, then with growing power. Bubbles and currents swirled around it as the engines pushed it upward. It pierced through layers of pressure, rock and ancient saltwater. Creatures of the deep scattered. The earth trembled as the ship ascended. On the surface, in the middle of the Pacific, the ocean parted for just a moment, and then something vast broke through. The Aegis emerged, a sleek, dark colossus that blotted out the sky, rising straight into the air with a roar of ion engines and gravity thrusters. Water rolled off its hull in massive sheets. Lightning sparked across the clouds as the ship broke free from Earth's atmosphere. All across the planet, satellites caught the footage. People stopped what they were doing. In cities, on farms, in orbiting habitats, millions watched in awe and disbelief. The ship climbed higher, steady and unstoppable. In the council chambers orbiting Earth, the galactic envoys stared at the screens. Some rose from their seats in shock. The Drex ambassador stood frozen, his face tightened as he recognized the scale of the threat. Earth was not the weak, quiet world the galaxy thought it was. In space, the Aegis locked into orbit, docking temporarily with Sentinel-1. Commander Voss boarded through a secured passage, walking through long metal corridors filled with activity. He entered the bridge. The crew stood as one. Voss looked around, faces young and old, trained in secret, ready to serve. "Status?" he asked. "Shields holding. Engines at 85%. Weapons ready. No contacts in range," Captain Quinn reported. Voss took a breath and stepped to the central command chair. He placed his hand on the control panel. The screen came alive with data. "This is Commander Alex Voss. The Aegis is active and in orbit. Earth is no longer silent." His words were transmitted not just to Earth, but to select channels across known space. In the far reaches of the galaxy, Those who had dismissed humans now watched in silence. On the bridge of a Drex warship, High Marshal Varzenth viewed the transmission with narrowed eyes. He said nothing, but his silence was not confusion. It was calculation. The game had changed. Back on the Aegis, Voss looked at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there a threat was coming, but now, Earth had an answer. The Aegis sailed through Earth's upper orbit like a silent predator, massive, powerful, and watching. Its systems pulsed with energy. Its shields shimmered faintly against the cold of space. On the bridge, Commander Alex Voss studied the data streaming across the central display. The galaxy was beginning to respond. News of Earth's supercarrier had spread like wildfire across the interstellar networks. Some called it a bluff, others a miracle. The Drex Dominion called it a threat. Voss knew it was only a matter of time before that threat was tested. But there was something else troubling him, something closer, more personal. For the past 12 hours, the Aegis's security logs had shown irregular data transfers. Encrypted packages of information had been sent from deep within the ship to unknown receivers beyond Earth's network. Whoever did it knew how to cover their tracks, but they weren't careful enough. Commander Voss stood in the Internal Intelligence Center with Captain Quinn and Chief Security Officer Miles. The lights were dim, the screens glowing with lines of intercepted code. "You're sure it came from the bridge sector?" Voss asked. "Yes, sir," Miles confirmed. "Only a few people had clearance at that time. We've narrowed it to 5, all loyal, well-vetted." Voss stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "Check them again. One of them isn't what they seem." Hours later, in the crew quarters, Lieutenant Cal sat at his terminal. His face was calm, eyes focused. His hands moved swiftly across the interface, encrypting another message. The Drex Dominion was listening. Cal had joined the project 8 years ago. He rose through the ranks with discipline and skill. People trusted him. Voss had even once called him the kind of officer this ship needs. But Cal didn't see things the way they did. He didn't believe Earth could survive on its own. He saw the galaxy as a place ruled by power, not hope. To him, joining the Drex was not betrayal, it was survival. Earth's pride, he believed, would only bring destruction. The message was short. The Aegis is armed, full capacity, launch systems active, awaiting instructions. He hit send. Just then his door chimed. He didn't flinch. "Enter." 2 security officers stepped in, followed by Commander Voss. Cal stood slowly. "Commander." Voss looked at him with a calm, unreadable expression. "We need to talk." In the ship's interrogation chamber, Cal sat alone under a pale light. Across the table, Voss stared at him, silent. "You were one of the best," Voss said finally. "Why?" Cal didn't look away. "Because Earth is pretending it can stand alone. You think one ship makes us powerful. The Drex won't stop. They don't respect strength. They devour it. I gave them what they wanted, so they wouldn't crush us." Voss leaned forward. "You gave away our shield codes, our launch protocols. You risked every life on this ship. I tried to save them," Cal replied. Voss stood. "You don't save lives by handing them over to the enemy." He turned to the guards. "Take him to deep lockdown. No contact, no light, until this is over." Cal said nothing as they dragged him away. The betrayal struck Voss harder than he showed. Trust was the core of command. Without it, even the strongest ship would fall apart. And now, as they neared the edge of Earth's solar system, that trust had been cracked. Back on the bridge, the warning alarms lit up. A sensor officer called out, "Commander, Drex fleet has entered the neutral zone. 9 warships, no transmissions, no response to hails." Voss stepped to the front of the bridge. "Raise shields. Prepare for engagement. Send a message to Earth Command. We're not waiting for war to come to us." Captain Quinn spoke softly beside him. "Do you think Cal's messages brought them early?" Voss didn't answer immediately. He stared at the screen as the red dots grew closer. "Yes," he said finally, "but we're ready." A long pause followed. Then he added, "I won't let this ship fall. Not now, not ever." As the Aegis turned to face the approaching fleet, its systems pulsed brighter, weapons readied, Fighters launched. The silence of space broke with the quiet hum of engines charging for war. In the distance, High Marshal Varzanth stood aboard his flagship, staring at the growing shape of the Aegis on his tactical screen. "She's big," he muttered, a slow smile forming. "Let's see if she's strong." The stars around Earth dimmed slightly as the two forces moved closer. The storm was coming. The neutral zone was quiet. Too quiet. It stretched like a narrow highway between star systems, a legal boundary agreed upon by all known empires. No ships were to cross it without warning. No battles were to be fought there. But now 9 Drex warships floated past its edge, their massive hulls lit with crimson glow, engines pulsing with quiet menace. The silence was not peace. It was the breath before a strike. Commander Alex Voss stood on the bridge of the Aegis, staring at the holographic display. The Drex fleet was only minutes away. No messages, no warnings, just movement. "All systems ready?" he asked calmly. Captain Quinn nodded. "Weapons armed, shields at full strength. Fighter squadrons deployed. We're tracking their approach." Voss tapped the console. The enemy ships rotated into clearer view. Sleek and sharp, Drex vessels were built like blades, fast, dangerous, and built for attack. "Open a channel," Voss said. The comms officer activated the link. "Channel open. This is Commander Alex Voss of the Aegis. You are entering restricted space. Withdraw immediately, or you will be fired upon." Silence followed. Then the screen flickered. High Marshal Varzanth appeared. He stood tall, armored in deep black, his silver eyes cold. A line of ceremonial scars ran down the left side of his face, a Drex sign of command earned through conquest. "I see the rumors were true," Var said slowly. "Earth has teeth. We have more than that," Voss replied. "We have resolve. You should have stayed quiet. The galaxy was happy forgetting you existed. Now you've made yourselves a target." Voss met his gaze. "If you want a war, Marshal, you'll get one. But you won't win." Var's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "Let's find out." The screen went dark. An alert rang through the bridge. Enemy ships charging weapons. All units, battle stations. Voss shouted. "Defensive pattern Delta. Prepare to fire." Space came alive with light and fury. The Drex fleet opened fire. Crimson beams shot across the void, striking the Aegis's forward shields. The ship shook, but the shields held firm. Energy rippled across its hull like water on glass. "Shields at 87%, shouted the tactical officer. "Return fire," Voss ordered. The Aegis responded with a storm of power. Plasma cannons lit up, launching arcs of searing blue into the dark. The soundless battlefield danced with color. Explosions flared, ships dodged and weaved, and fighter squadrons dove into formation. Alex watched from the bridge, as pilots he had trained in secret now flew with precision and courage. Every one of them knew the stakes. Earth's future was in their hands. "Drex flankers are moving in from below," Captain Quinn warned. Voss adjusted their position. "Shift our angle. Bring the forward cannons to bear." The Aegis spun with grace that seemed impossible for its size. Twin cannons under its bow unleashed a concentrated blast, slicing one Drex ship straight through the middle. The enemy vessel broke apart, pieces scattering into the stars. Direct hit. One enemy down, but there was no time to celebrate. Another blast rocked the ship, hard. Port shields down to 59%. Hull integrity holding. Reroute power from auxiliary systems. Voss commanded. "Keep us stable." A warning flashed red on the control screen. An unauthorized signal was detected, deep in the lower decks. Quinn frowned. Another sabotage attempt. Voss shook his head. "No, just leftover traces from Kala's work. He gave them the timing, the codes. That's why they moved early. He nearly cost us this battle," she said quietly. "But he didn't," Voss replied. "Because we're still here." As the battle raged, Voss made a sudden decision. "I'm taking a fighter." Quinn's eyes widened. "Sir, you're the commander. I trained for this. I know the Drex. If I can disable their command ship, this ends now." Quinn hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. Then I'm flying your wing." Together they raced to the launch bay. Their personal fighters were small, fast, and fitted with advanced tech unknown to the enemy. As they launched, the battle shifted, two streaks of silver breaking through the chaos, heading straight for Var Zenth's flagship. Inside the Drex command ship, Var watched the fighters approach. "They're desperate," he muttered. "Good, but the fighters didn't fire. Not yet." They moved with purpose, dodging Drex escorts, weaving between blasts. Voss targeted the communication core on Var's vessel. If he knocked it out, the enemy ships would lose coordination. He fired. A beam of focused energy struck the Drex hull, then a second, then a third. Sparks flew. The flagship shuddered. Back on the Aegis, engineers cheered as sensors showed the command vessel faltering. Voss's strike had hit a vital node. Drex weapons across the fleet flickered. Their fire patterns lost rhythm. Var cursed in his own language. "They crippled our link. Fall back." The Drex fleet began to retreat, limping away from the fight. The Aegis held its ground, wounded but standing strong. Hours later, as repairs began and injured crew were treated, Commander Voss returned to the bridge. He looked at the stars. They had faced the galaxy's most feared empire and survived. Not just survived, won. Beside him, Captain Quinn exhaled slowly. "We did it." Voss nodded. "One battle, but not the last," she said. "No," Voss agreed, "but the line is drawn, and we're ready." Below them, Earth spun silently, unaware of how close it had come to disaster. But now, thanks to the Aegis, the planet had earned its place in the stars. The stars looked calm again, but the war was far from over. Inside the Aegis, alarms rang once more. The bridge lit up in red. Commander Alex Voss stepped forward. Already in motion, his eyes locked on the growing wave of red markers flashing across the tactical screen. "They're coming back," said Captain Quinn. "Double the ships from last time." Voss didn't flinch. Var Zenth wasn't going to retreat without a second strike. "He's trying to overwhelm us. He's testing how far we'll go." Outside the ship, Earth's orbit grew crowded. Civilian satellites were shut down and moved aside. Defense grids activated. Earth was no longer pretending to be silent or weak. The Drex fleet approached fast. 18 warships, supported by carriers and drone swarms. They didn't cross into the neutral zone this time. They entered Earth's protected space directly. This was no warning. This was invasion. In the lower decks of the Aegis, engineering teams ran final checks. The Horizon Core, the experimental power source that fueled the ship, was operating near capacity. One misstep, one overload, and the ship could tear itself apart. Chief Engineer Tanaka wiped sweat from his brow. "We're pushing the core harder than we ever tested. She'll hold, but not forever." Back on the bridge, Voss was calm, focused, his voice steady. "Signal the Earth defense grid. Tell them to hold fire until we engage. If we fall, they're next." Quinn gave a firm nod. "Understood." The Aegis moved into position between Earth and the Drex fleet. Alone, it faced the wall of enemy ships, a single guardian for an entire world. "Fire when ready," Voss ordered. The sky exploded. Lasers and plasma beams tore through the void. Fighters screamed across the battlefield, weaving between bursts of light and debris. The Aegis's main cannons fired in rhythm, each shot shaking the stars. The first enemy cruiser broke apart under a direct hit. But more followed. Enemy drones incoming. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The sensor officer called out. "Activate point defense systems," Voss replied. Along the hull of the Aegis, dozens of automated turrets came to life, shooting down wave after wave of incoming drones. Still, the Drex pushed closer. Their strategy was clear: sacrifice numbers, break the Aegis by force. Suddenly the ship lurched. "Direct hit on our lower decks, shields weakening. Redirect power from secondary engines," Voss said. "Hold the line." As the crew followed his orders, the Horizon Core flared, its glow brighter, wilder. Tanaka's voice came through the comm. "We're reaching unstable levels. If the core overheats, we lose everything." Voss finished. He didn't panic. "Keep it balanced. Just a little longer." Outside, the sky turned red as the Drex flagship appeared. A massive beast of a ship, darker and larger than the rest. Varzenth was aboard. He had come to finish the job himself. Vos narrowed his eyes. Prepare the Nova Lance. The crew hesitated. The Nova Lance was the Aegis's most powerful weapon. One shot, and it could tear a ship in half. But it had never been tested. It drew energy directly from the Horizon core. Sir, Quinn warned, if we use the Nova Lance, we could push the core past its limit. Vos looked at the screen. The Drex flagship was moving into range. Earth had no second chance. We fire. Now. The command was given. Inside the ship, massive panels opened. A long glowing cannon extended from beneath the Aegis's hull. Energy gathered at its center. A white-hot pulse that hummed with raw, unstable power. Target locked, the weapons officer reported. Fire. A beam of pure light burst forth, slicing across space like a sword of the stars. It struck the Drex flagship directly through its core. For a moment everything went still. Then the enemy ship erupted in a massive explosion, fragments flying in all directions. The rest of the Drex fleet hesitated, scattered and finally turned to retreat. Cheers broke out across the Aegis, but in the engine room, warning sirens screamed louder. The core is failing. Tanaka shouted. That shot took too much. Containment's breaking down. On the bridge, Vos heard it. How long? Maybe a minute before critical failure. Vos made a choice. Vent the outer core shell. Dump the excess charge into orbit. Tanaka hesitated. That will leave us exposed for 60 seconds. Do it. It's our only chance. The engineers obeyed. Outside the ship, a wave of blue energy exploded from the Aegis's center. For one terrifying moment, the ship went dark. Power flickered, shields dropped, weapons offline, but the overload passed. Systems rebooted. The Horizon core dimmed but stabilized. The Aegis held. Later, with the battle over and Earth safe once more, Commander Vos sat alone in the observation deck. He stared at the stars, now peaceful again. Captain Quinn joined him. You saved the planet today, she said quietly. Vos shook his head. We all did. The whole crew, Earth, everyone who kept the Aegis a secret for so long. But it's no secret anymore, she replied. No, he said. Now the galaxy knows. Far away in the deep regions of space, the remains of the Drex fleet drifted in silence. Varzenth's fate was unknown, but the Dominion had been humbled. For now, peace had returned, but the fire over Earth would never be forgotten. Days had passed since the final battle, but the memory of it still burned bright. The Aegis hovered quietly in Earth's orbit now, her hull scorched, her systems running on half power. She was wounded, but alive, just like the world she had protected. Inside the command chamber, Commander Alex Vos stood alone. The room was quiet, the walls dimly lit. On the central screen, Earth spun slowly beneath him, blue-green, alive. The storm had passed, but peace was a fragile thing. Behind him, the door slid open. Captain Quinn stepped in. Engineering reports the Horizon core is stable, she said. We'll be back to full power in a week. Vos nodded slowly. Any word from the Drex? Silence. No transmissions, no sightings. The remains of their fleet scattered beyond sensor range. They were hit harder than they expected. And Varzenth, unknown. His flagship was destroyed, but no confirmed sighting of his body. Vos turned away from the screen and looked at her. He's alive. I can feel it, and he won't forget this. Quinn didn't argue. She knew he was right. Down in the crew halls, repair teams moved through damaged sections of the Aegis. Burned panels were replaced. Broken conduits were repaired. The ship was healing, just like its people. In the medical bay, doctors treated the wounded, some with bruises, some with burns, some too exhausted to speak. They didn't complain. They had survived the worst, and they were proud. Earth itself was still catching up to the truth. Across the planet, images of the Aegis had spread like wildfire. News anchors called it the Guardian of Earth. People lit candles, raised flags, and held vigils in cities and space stations alike. For the first time in a century, the people of Earth were united, not by fear but by hope. In a high chamber orbiting Mars, the Galactic Council had gathered in emergency session. Representatives from dozens of systems sat in silence, watching the footage of the battle, the rise of the Aegis, the Nova Lance, the retreat of the Drex. For years Earth had been ignored, mocked, dismissed. Not anymore. One ambassador, a tall creature from the Geran Union, stood and spoke. Let the record show Earth has defended itself with honor. It has proven strength, restraint, and resolve. I move that Earth be granted a permanent seat at the galactic defense table. Others murmured in agreement. Even old enemies remained silent. Earth had earned its place, not through conquest, but survival. Back aboard the Aegis, Voss stood before the crew in the main hall. Officers, engineers, medics, and pilots filled the room. All wore the same uniform. All had fought the same fight. Some had lost friends. Some had barely made it through, but they had done it together. Voss didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. When we launched this ship, we carried the hopes of a planet, he said. We didn't ask to be noticed. We didn't want war, but we were ready. He paused. We stood between Earth and destruction, and we held the line. There was silence for a moment. Then the room filled with applause, not loud, not wild, but steady, solid, like the ship itself. Captain Quinn stepped beside him and whispered, "What happens now?" Voss looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Now, he said, we build something better. Later that night, he recorded a message, not for his crew, not for politicians, but for the galaxy. The transmission was short, clear, honest. To the peoples of the galaxy, Earth has never been your enemy. We stayed silent by choice, not by weakness, but silence is over. We will defend ourselves. We will protect our home. And if peace is possible, we will stand for it. This is not a threat. It's a beginning. The message was sent across every open channel, in every major language. There was no reply, but none was needed. Everyone had seen what the Aegis could do, and what Earth had become. Far across the galaxy, deep in Drex space, a lone figure stood on the deck of a damaged warship. Varzenth. His armor was cracked, one eye covered by a metal plate. His hand rested on the railing, as he watched a screen showing Earth's transmission. His expression was unreadable, part rage, part respect. He spoke to no one in particular. They have fire now. Good. Fire makes worthy enemies. He turned and walked into the dark. Back on Earth, children looked to the sky at night and pointed to the new star overhead, the faint light of the Aegis in orbit. A symbol of hope, a symbol of strength. The galaxy had changed. Earth had risen.